Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing an unboxing and giving you my first impressions of the M4 Mac Mini. Now, as a filmmaker, content creator, director of photography, I've been using Apple computers for over 10 years, since 2008. Wow, it's been a while now. The M4 Mac Mini has been the first computer under $1,000 that is a desktop computer that delivers insane value for the money. You can pick this up for $600 brand new or $500 if you have an EDU email account. I'm always on the lookout for gear like this that can keep up with the demands of high quality video production, from cameras like the RED Komodo 6K to my Sony FX30, even the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, the drones. I'm thinking this M4 Mac Mini can do a lot for the price, but first, let's unbox this thing. First things first, Apple's packaging is always on point. Minimal, clean, and very Apple-like. Inside, we've got the Mac Mini itself wrapped up, so let's open this thing and see what it looks like. So we're going to take this. Oh, yeah. This thing is small. Now, I know we've been comparing this to the Apple TV, and it is a little bit bigger than the Apple TV, but it is incredibly small for a desktop computer. So let's put this aside, and I think all that comes with it aside from that is a power cord, and that may be it. All right, as you can see here, we've got the power port, we've got Ethernet, HDMI, the 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports, which the base model comes with Thunderbolt 4, and the 2 USB-Cs on the front that are USB 3.0. Now, for me, getting the Thunderbolt 4s on the back versus the Thunderbolt 5 really isn't a big deal, as there isn't really much you can do with Thunderbolt 5 at the moment. OWC just came out with a super fast SSD drive that's faster than I think the internal hard drive, but you don't need a super fast drive like that to edit off of. It's really more for file transfers. Now that I have the M4 Mac Mini unboxed, this is one of the original Mac Minis I purchased over 10 years ago, and the body style has not really changed at all in over 10 years, other than they got rid of the CD drive, which I still have because this is an old one. But so here's the original Mac Mini, and here is the new Mac Mini. And as you could see, the size difference is crazy. There's a lot more ports on here. There's also the ports on the front, which there are no ports on the front here. You also have a headphone jack, which is really good when you're trying to mix audio and you want to use non-Bluetooth headphones. You maybe don't want latency. It's nice to be able to have it right here so you can just plug the headphones in really easily and unplug them when you're not using them. It's a pain in the butt on my iMac to do. I always have to reach around my iMac to plug in headphones when I want to use them. So the design of this new Mac Mini body style is really sleek, really small, really portable, and I think it's going to be one of the first desktop computers, from Apple at least, that people actually bring around with, maybe in replace of a laptop. Now, I'm not going to do that, as I actually bought the M3 Pro MacBook Pro last year when those were released, and I bought that as a replacement to my M1 MacBook Air. That was a base model. That M1 MacBook Air only had 8 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage. Sound a little bit familiar? I was saying for years, if you wanted to get an M1 MacBook Air, you could make it work. But you had to manage your memory, especially with 8 gigabytes of RAM and only a 256 gigabyte hard drive. That meant you had to manage your memory, and you also always had to bring an external hard drive. Now, the one similar thing is, if you get the base model M4 Mac Mini, it's only 256 gigs internal hard drive space. So you are going to have to get an external hard drive if you're going to use this as your workhorse computer. But the thing is, buying an external hard drive, even a really fast one, can be cheaper than even the base level upgrade to 512 gigabytes of storage on here. It's one of the reasons I purchased the M4 Mac Mini. As you may have been able to tell, this is not my first Apple Silicon computer. I started with the M1 base model MacBook Air. I bought that at the same time I bought the 27-inch 5K iMac in 2020, and that was the last Intel computer Apple was making. But I bought that computer because I do video games sometimes and I wanted to be able to use Boot Camp, and it was very clear that Boot Camp was going away with Apple Silicon. So I bought that iMac because it had the wonderful built-in display. It had really great graphics. It was, again, at the time, pretty much the best value Intel computer for the money, and it was going to be the last one. So I purchased that, and then I purchased the M1 MacBook Air base model because I didn't have a lot of budget left over for a laptop, and I was coming from a MacBook Pro. I've been using a MacBook Pro as a desktop for years and would bring it with me when I travel, but I wanted to stop doing that. I wanted to have a desktop and I wanted to have a laptop. Now, I got the M1 MacBook Air because when I was traveling, I was willing to put up with some sacrifices because I wasn't doing it all the time. So I was willing to deal with only having 8 GB of RAM, managing my memory. I was pretty much using swap memory all the time, which is not really going to be as big of a deal on this M4 Mac Mini. But I was using swap memory all the time. I was always bringing a hard drive with me. And then in 2023, that's when I started traveling more, and I started to realize that the M1 MacBook Air wasn't quite cutting it. And then on top of that, the M1 MacBook Air only had Thunderbolt 3, where I wanted to have Thunderbolt 4 connectivity. So that's when I actually picked up this M3 Pro MacBook Pro. Now, I didn't go for the base model when it comes to the M3 Pro. I ended up going for the non-bin version, so the higher CPU, higher GPU count. I also got a 1 TB hard drive just so I wouldn't have to bring an external hard drive with me all the time when traveling. But I did go for the base amount of RAM, which this base amount of RAM on the M3 Pro MacBook Pro is 18 gigs. So not very far off from the 16 we get in the base model Mac Mini. And I can tell you from experience, even with using multiple displays hooked up to this computer, I'm never going over 18 gigs. So one of the things that I think you're going to find out looking at my video, looking at other people's videos on the M4 Mac Mini, if you're looking for the M4 Mac Mini and you're looking to spend the smallest amount possible, the M4 Mac Mini is probably going to be the computer for you. If you're a high-end professional and you're in the film industry, you're filming and editing features on your computer, the M4 Mac Mini probably won't be for you. I mean, could you make it work? Yeah, but at that point, you have the budget to get something more expensive. So I don't think those guys are going to be looking at the M4 Mac Mini. But even me, myself, I'm a filmmaker that shoots on something like the RED Komodo. This is my highest end camera, shoots 6K, raw video, and I do need good computers to edit with this. I was able to edit this footage on the M1 MacBook Air. So I can tell you without even editing on this computer yet, this is going to be able to handle it. Now, since I haven't edited anything, this video you're watching right now, it's going to be the first video I edit on the M4 Mac Mini. So I'm excited to do that. So this camera shoots 6K raw. I'll be messing with some of the footage from my RED Komodo. Then I guess my next camera up would be the camera we're filming on right now, which shoots 6K as well. We're shooting in 6K right now, and that is the Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K. That's a full frame raw shooting camera. The codec's a little bit easier on your computer than the RED codec is. It's the camera I use the majority of the time when I'm here in my studio. So that is going to be interesting to check out. Then I have this FX30, which is a 4K camera that shoots 10-bit. It does shoot RAW, but I don't really mess with it too often. So most of the files I'm going to be messing with this camera are going to be 4K 24, 4K 60, sometimes 4K 120 files. These are relatively easy to edit, but I'll be checking this out. And then there's the lower end codecs, like on cameras, like the Osmo Pocket 3 that I use all the time for YouTube content, especially when it comes to vlogging, behind the scenes videos. This is a 4K camera, 4K 10-bit. It's got really small file sizes. So between this and the Osmo Action 5 that I have right here, some of the DJI drones that have super small bit rates, I'm going to be testing all of this on the M4 Mac Mini. As far as editing with this computer, I've installed everything I needed to so far, but I haven't actually edited anything. Like I said, this is going to be the first video I edit. So let's talk about a few of the Geekbench tests I ran against my M3 Pro MacBook Pro and my 2020 5K iMac, because I wanted to give some performance levels just to see what I was dealing with on this computer. So when it comes to the Geekbench scores, the M4 Mac Mini as a single core score scored 3497, which is higher than all the computers I own. The M3 Pro MacBook Pro scored 3181 for a single score, and my 5K iMac almost looks like a dinosaur compared to these. It scored 1625 as a single score. But then when it comes to the multi-score, that's where things change a little bit, because my M3 Pro does have more CPU cores than this M4 Mac Mini. This has 10 cores total. It has a little bit of a different differentiation between the performance cores and the efficiency. I believe the M4 Mac Mini has 6 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores, where the M3 MacBook Pro is pretty much split down the middle. So it's got 14 cores total. I believe it has 8 performance cores, and then it's got 6 efficiency cores. So it's got a little bit more performance, but it is an older core. And that was some of the complaints with the M3 Pro MacBook Pro. A lot of users wanted to see more performance cores in there, which it seems that they've solved that with the M4 Pro MacBook Pros. But I'm not going to upgrade for a small performance boost when this computer does really well and it's only a year old. When it comes to the multi-core score on the M3 Pro MacBook Pro, that's where it is beating my other two computers. The M3 Pro MacBook Pro has a score of 15,440, where the M4 Mac Mini has a score of 13,169. So the M3 Pro is beating this, but it makes sense. It's got more cores in general, so you would expect it to have a little bit of a better multi-core score. Where the multi-core score on my iMac shows it's starting to get ancient. It's 7,557. So it's a little bit less than half my M3 Pro MacBook Pro score, and it's a little bit more than half of the M4 Mac Mini score. Now, the GPU scores is where things get interesting, and it's where you're not going to see quite as much value in the M4 Mac Mini, and you're going to see more in my M3 Pro and even my ancient 5K iMac. So when it comes to GPU scores, the M3 Pro MacBook Pro that I have is the king of the three computers. It's sitting at 53,824 as its GPU score. Then in second place is not the M4 Mac Mini. It is my 2025K iMac. Again, it's got a beefy graphics card. That's sitting at 41,485. I video game on that thing. I still video game on that to this day. I play Fortnite, World of Warships, PUBG, in boot camp, and it plays all those games really flawlessly, so I would expect the GPU to keep up. Then the GPU score on here actually isn't much lower than my 5K iMac. It's at 37,334. So it all comes down to what you're getting for the price with this M4 Mac Mini. You are getting for $600, $500 if you have an EDU account, a really great bang for your buck. When I bought the M3 Pro MacBook Pro that I'm looking at right here, I paid $2,600 before tax. When I bought my 5K iMac, again, I think I paid around $2,300 before tax. And then that computer, it actually was the last computer that let you manually upgrade your RAM. So I just kept the base model of 8 gigs because I ended up putting like 72 gigs of RAM in that computer. So that ended up costing me more. Let's take that factor out, and just the computer itself was $2,300 in 2020. $600. A lot of value right here for your money, and that's why I've been interested in buying this. Now, before I talk about why I bought this, I also want to talk about the comparison to other M4 computers, why this is such a high value. So the closest right now in the lineup here in November of 2024 is the iMac M4. Now, the iMac M4 is around $1,300, and the CPU GPU is not as powerful as this. You get an 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU, so you do have to spend a little bit of extra money and get the $1,500 iMac to get the 10-core CPU, 10-core GPU. And that is more than double the price of this. Now, when the M4 MacBook Air comes out, I'm going to assume it's going to have the same limitation of the base model having 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU. That's going to make this 10-core CPU, 10-core GPU base model Mac Mini still the best value. I think the biggest thing is you're going to have a screen, you're going to have a keyboard, mouse, and you're going to have an external hard drive. Now, if you already own these things, this is a really negligible investment. It's $600, really not that much. If you have to buy all those things, you can price them out right and you could still spend less than an iMac and get a really nice display. In a future video, I'll go over the best options for accessories for the M4 Mac Mini so you don't break the bank and spend less than $1,000 on this package in total and get a powerhouse computer. But I didn't want to make this video super long today, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Now let's talk about why I bought the M4 Mac Mini. This year, with running the two computers, I had a need for a server computer. Now, my 5K iMac, it's a great computer still to this day, but it is a powerhouse. It just uses a lot of power. That's what Intel was kind of known for, and that was the big thing with the transition to Apple Silicon, is how powerful those computers are for how little power they use. So I wanted to have a computer to use as a server computer. I was looking at either an older M1 MacBook Air or an M1 or M2 Mac Mini. Then, a few months ago, I heard about the new design change, and I figured if they keep this the same price, it's going to end up being $600. Why would I spend $600 on an M2 Mac Mini that's already a few years old and going to have the old body design when I can just get the new one coming out soon? And for me, for $600, what this allows me to do is I can keep this in the apartment at all times, have it hooked up to all my hard drives, and then when I want to edit on the go on my M3 Pro, MacBook Pro, or I want to grab some files while I'm in my room, maybe editing on my 5K iMac, I can have everything hooked up to this computer. It can be my server computer, and I don't really have to worry about hooking up a bunch of hard drives and then removing them, taking them, putting them away. I can just leave them, and a lot of the times I need access to older footage when I'm working on YouTube videos, when I'm working on podcasts, reviews. I need some of my older footage that's on some of my older tape-based hard drives, and I hate having to take them out, put them back, do all that stuff. So that's the biggest use. The other thing is, my 5K iMac is starting to get old, and as you can see by the benchmark performance of this computer, for $600, when it comes to CPU, it blows my 5K iMac out of the water, and when it comes to GPU, it's starting to get close. So my bet is that I can do most of the things I do on my 5K iMac at this point in time on this M4 Mac Mini. Now, I'm not going to be able to do everything, but I think I'm going to be able to get pretty close for $600. And it's such a small investment in a computer that is a device that I use every day. I use it for editing videos, emails, daily tasks in all the businesses I'm in, from being a filmmaker, DP, content creator, publisher of Jazz's magazine. I am on a computer all the time. So $600 for something that I use on a daily basis that is crucial to all my businesses is nothing. So in my opinion, again, if you are looking at the M4 Mac Mini base model and you're looking to save the money, most likely this is going to be the computer for you, and it will be able to do everything you need it to do. If you're kind of in between and you think you may need something better, and you're not really super considering the Mac Mini, but it's appealing because of the price, but you think you should get something better, I would say at that point, either get something better like the Mac Mini M4 Pro, which again, that is another insane step up, great value for the money. It's just over double the price of this computer. So I think for the majority of users, this is going to be probably the #1 selling computer, at least for the next year, just because of how much power, how much value you get for $600. If you have any questions about the M4 Mac Mini, anything you want me to test on it, make sure to let me know in the comments below. And if you got knowledge and value out of today's video, please make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell to keep up to date with the latest videos on the channel. Until next time, my name is Jeff Fagien. Thank you for joining me as always, and I will catch you in the next video.